Ever watched an entitled HOA president sick her personal goon on your kid with a golf club just because he was practicing his swing in your own backyard? That's the moment civility ended for me. And that's the moment Frank, Karen's head of security, learned about the immediate and painful consequences of assaulting a child in front of his father. A father who happens to have a very particular set of skills. The sun hung low over Willow Creek Preserve, casting a warm glow across my backyard. I sat on the patio, a worn copy of The Art of War in my hands, sipping iced tea that had gone lukewarm. My son, Alex, 12 years old and all limbs, was out in the grass, practicing his golf swing. He gripped his junior 7-iron like it was a lightsaber, sending plastic practice balls into a portable net with a satisfying thwack. Every few swings, I'd call out a tip, "Keep your elbows soft, bud," and he'd flash me a grin. All braces and determination. The backyard was our sanctuary. A low cedar fence marked the line between our property and the HOA's precious golf course fairway that stretched out behind us. Alex's small bag of practice balls sat neatly by the net, his junior golf club set propped against it. My phone rested on the patio table, buzzing occasionally with work emails I was ignoring. It was quiet, peaceful, just a father and son. No noise, no trouble. The peace didn't last. I heard the whine of a golf cart before I saw it. Karen Baxter, Willow Creek's HOA president and self-appointed dictator, rolled up just beyond the fence in her customized cart. All chrome and faux leather. She was decked out in pristine golf attire, visor, pearl earrings, the works, like she was auditioning for a country club ad. Beside her sat Frank, her head of security. A hulking mid-40s thug stuffed into a too-tight security polo, mirrored sunglasses hiding his eyes. In his meaty hands, he clutched a shiny new driver, probably bought with HOA dues. Karen funneled somewhere shady. Karen hopped out, clipboard in hand. Her lips pursed like she'd just bitten a lemon. "Young man." She barked at Alex, who froze mid-swing. "This unauthorized golf practice is a violation. You're endangering HOA members on the fairway." I set my book down, eyebrows raised. Alex was hitting plastic balls into a net, 30 yards from the fairway, on our property. I stood and walked to the fence, keeping my tone even. "Karen, he's in our yard, hitting into a net. He's not bothering anyone." Her eyes narrowed, and she clutched her clipboard tighter. "Don't you dare talk back to me, Mark. That boy's a hazard." She turned to Frank, who was already stepping off the cart, flexing like a wannabe bouncer. "Frank, deal with this. Confiscate that club." Frank lumbered onto my property, his driver still in one hand. Alex, confused, stepped back. Frank snatched the 7-iron from Alex's grip. When Alex instinctively reached for it, Frank's face twisted. In a deliberate cruel arc, he swung his heavy driver, not at a ball, but at Alex. The club head slammed into Alex's arm and shoulder with a sickening thud. Alex screamed, collapsing to the grass, his club tumbling beside him. Karen smirked. My vision tunneled, hearing my son scream, seeing that thug strike him with a golf club while Karen smirked. A cold rage I haven't felt in years surged through me. My training is about de-escalation, but there are lines. This was a mile past that line. What would you do in that instant? When someone uses a weapon on your child? Let me know in the comments. What's your immediate gut reaction? I didn't think. I moved. Years of close quarters combat training kicked in, muscle memory overriding everything. In 3 steps, I was on Frank before he could raise his club again. My left hand locked onto his wrist, twisting it in a joint lock that forced him to drop the driver. My right leg swept low, delivering a precise, devastating strike to the side of his knee. There was a crack, like a branch snapping, and Frank collapsed, howling, clutching a shattered joint. His club hit the ground with a dull clatter. Karen's scream pierced the air, not out of concern for Frank, but pure outrage. "How dare you?" she shrieked, as if I'd just key her golf cart. I ignored her, dropping to one knee beside Alex, who was clutching his arm, tears streaming down his face. "I've got you, buddy," I said, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. I scooped him up, shielding him with my body. and glared at Karen. "You crossed a line. You're done." Frank writhed on the grass, his expensive driver abandoned beside him. Alex's 7-iron lay a few feet away, a silent witness to the assault. I carried Alex toward the house, my phone already in hand to call 911. Karen was still yelling, but her words were just noise. She'd picked the wrong yard, the wrong father. Karen thought her HOA presidency and her hired muscle made her invincible. She didn't realize she'd just instigated a felony in front of a man who eats liars for breakfast and documents everything for dessert. Sirens cut through the haze of Karen's shouting as police and paramedics swarmed my backyard. Alex, pale and clutching his injured arm, was loaded onto a stretcher, his small frame trembling. I stayed close, my hand on his shoulder, murmuring reassurances while my eyes tracked the scene. Frank, still sprawled on the grass, moaned as medics tended to his knee, his abandoned driver lying nearby like a guilty accomplice. Karen, clipboard clutched like a shield, was already spinning her tale for the responding officers, her voice dripping with theatrical outrage. That man attacked Frank viciously, without provocation. Frank was just retrieving an unauthorized item. Per HOA rules. I took a breath, forcing my rage down to a simmer, and approached the lead officer. My voice was calm, each word measured. My son was assaulted with a golf club by that man at her direction. Alex was on our property doing nothing wrong. I acted to protect him from further harm. I handed over my phone, which had captured Karen's immediate reaction. Her shouting, not about Alex's injury, but about my audacity. I pointed to the security cameras mounted on my house. "Check the footage. It's all there." The officer nodded, his partner already photographing the scene. Alex's junior 7-iron, Frank's driver, the scuffed grass where it all went down. Karen's golf cart sat just beyond the fence, a smug monument to her overreach. At the hospital, the waiting room was sterile and cold, the hum of fluorescent lights doing nothing to dull my focus. Alex was an X-ray, and the doctor soon confirmed what I feared. A fractured forearm and severe bruising. My boy would heal, but the sight of him in a sling, wincing with every movement, stoked the fire in my gut. I made calls from the waiting room, my voice low but firm. First, a criminal defense attorney, a shark I'd worked with on past cases. Then, a civil litigation specialist who'd made HOAs bleed in court. Back home, I pulled the security footage from the DVR, the crisp video showing Frank's swing, Alex's collapse, and my response, swift, controlled, defensive. I saved screenshots of Alex's injuries, the medical report already in my inbox. Sleep didn't come that night. In my home office, I turned my skills to Karen and Frank. Public records, online forums, a few discreet calls to contacts, they painted a clear picture. Karen Baxter, a serial bully, skimming HOA funds for years, using her position to settle personal scores. Complaints about her stacked up like unpaid bills. Harassment, intimidation, questionable expenses like her tricked-out golf cart. Frank was her perfect pawn. A rap sheet of minor assaults, no security license. Likely paid under the table with HOA money to play enforcer. My encrypted laptop hummed as I built a dossier, each file a nail in their coffin. Karen thought she could bully her way out of this. She didn't know I was already 3 steps ahead. My evidence airtight, my resolve unbreakable. Karen thought she could manipulate the legal system like she manipulated the HOA. She was about to learn that video footage and a father's testimony are powerful weapons against fabricated victimhood. The police station smelled of stale coffee and bureaucracy. But I sat across from the detective with the calm of a man holding a royal flush. My security footage, burned onto a USB drive, lay on the desk between us. The detective, a grizzled veteran named Torres, had already watched it twice. Frank's deliberate swing at Alex, my son's scream, my instantaneous response. "This is clear as day," Torres said, tapping the drive. "You protected your kid. We've got witness statements from neighbors." 2. Heard the commotion. Saw Frank cross your property line. I nodded, handing over my dossier on Karen and Frank. Public records, HOA complaint logs, Frank's sketchy history. Torres raised an eyebrow. You don't mess around. Karen, meanwhile, was waging war in her own way. She stormed the HOA's private forum, posting rants about my violent temper and how she and Frank feared for their lives. She even tried leaning on the DA's office, dropping names of local bigwigs she claimed to know. But her bluster was crumbling. My attorneys had already filed motions, and the neighbors' statements. Two saw Karen's golf cart parked ominously. One heard her order Frank to deal with this, painted her as the instigator. Her history of bullying, documented in my dossier, was now in the DA's hands, along with whispers of her financial misdeeds. The HOA itself was imploding. Karen's reign had always been shaky, built on fear and favors. But this was a bridge too far. At an emergency board meeting, residents packed the community center, their anger palpable. I wasn't there. My focus was Alex, now home with his arm in a cast. But my attorney sent me the minutes. Residents demanded Karen's removal, citing her role in Alex's assault and years of overreach. The board, staring down my looming lawsuit, subpoenaed the HOA's financials. Karen's golf cart, Frank's salary, that shiny driver he'd swung at my son, all paid with dues, no receipts. The meeting descended into chaos, with one resident shouting, "She's not our president. She's our problem." Another, a retired accountant, volunteered to audit the books. Karen's empire was cracking. Back at home, I kept things steady for Alex. He was tougher than I'd expected, cracking jokes about his cast. But I caught the flicker of fear in his eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. We talked about what happened, and I promised him justice, not vengeance, but accountability. My attorneys were relentless. The civil litigator, a sharp woman named Elena, was building a case against Karen and the HOA for damages. Medical bills, therapy, pain and suffering. The criminal defense attorney, a bulldog named Ray. In short, I stayed untouchable. The DA's not stupid, Ray said over coffee. Your footage is the slam dunk. Frank's the one in cuffs, and Karen's not far behind. The DA's office moved faster than I'd hoped. A week later, I got the call. Torres was blunt. "No charges against you, Mark. You acted to protect your son." Textbook self-defense. He paused, his voice lowering. "Frank's facing aggravated assault, and we're looking at Karen for conspiracy. That footage shows her egging him on. Plus your financial docs. They're opening a separate investigation into her HOA funds." I exhaled, the weight on my chest easing slightly. The DA's letter, formal and unequivocal, arrived the next day, clearing me completely. I filed it with the rest of my evidence, a growing stack that felt like armor. Karen's smear campaign faltered as her lies unraveled. Her HOA posts were screenshotted and sent to my attorneys, each one a nail in her credibility. Neighbors, emboldened, started sharing their own Karen stories. Fines for petty violations, threats over landscaping, a suspicious maintenance fee hike that funded her pet projects. One resident, a tech guy, dug up an old email where Karen bragged about handling troublemakers with Frank's help. Elena grinned when I forwarded it. "She's handing us the rope." The HOA board, desperate to avoid my lawsuit, called an emergency vote to oust Karen. She showed up, all bluster, claiming she was the victim of a witch hunt. But the residents weren't buying it. A motion to remove her passed 47-3, and she stormed out, vowing to sue. The board, now led by a no-nonsense retiree, promised transparency and offered me an early settlement discussion. I declined. "Not yet," I told Elena. "Let's see how deep this goes." Alex was my anchor through it all. One evening, as we sat on the patio, he asked, "Dad, why'd she hate us so much?" I didn't have a clean answer. "Some people need to control everything," I said. "Karen's one of them, but she picked the wrong fight." He nodded, twirling a plastic golf ball in his good hand. I saw his resilience, but also his scars, physical and otherwise. That fueled me. The DA's focus on Karen sharpened. Torres hinted they were building a case beyond conspiracy, possible embezzlement, maybe even contributing to the delinquency of a minor for ordering Frank's assault. My dossier had lit a fire, and the subpoenaed HOA financials were a goldmine. Unaccounted expenses, checks to Frank's personal account, a consulting fee to a shell company tied to Karen's cousin. The board, now fully cooperative, handed over everything, terrified of being named in my suit. As the investigation deepened, I prepped for the next battle. Frank's trial was coming, and Karen would be a witness, her lies exposed under oath. My attorneys were ready to pounce, laying groundwork for the civil case. The security footage, Alex's medical report, the DA's letter, they were my arsenal. Karen had thought she could bully her way through this, hiding behind her HOA throne. But thrones crumble when the truth hits hard, and I was just getting started. Karen marched into court expecting to be the star witness against me. She hobbled out as the co-defendant in a criminal conspiracy, her empire of petty tyranny crumbling around her. The county courthouse was a gray monolith, its courtroom a sterile box of polished wood and flickering fluorescent lights. I sat in the gallery, my suit pressed, my face a mask of calm. Frank's trial for aggravated assault was underway, and the prosecution was methodical, building a fortress of evidence. The centerpiece was my security footage, projected on a screen for the jury. Frank's deliberate swing, Alex's collapse, my swift response. The audio caught Karen's voice, sharp and commanding. "Deal with this. Confiscate that club." The jury's faces hardened as Alex, brave but small in his chair, testified about the pain, his arm still in a sling. He held up his cast, a silent accusation, and I saw a juror wipe her eyes. I took the stand next, my voice steady as I recounted the assault and my defensive actions. The prosecutor, a wiry man named Patel, walked me through each moment. Frank crossing my property line, his driver raised, Alex's scream. "Was your response proportionate to the threat?" Patel asked. "Yes," I said. "He was armed, attacking my son. I neutralized the threat. The defense tried to paint me as a vigilante, but my attorney, Ray, had prepped me well. I stuck to facts, letting the footage speak louder than their insinuations. Then came Karen. She swept in, pearls gleaming, her face a mix of indignation and victimhood. Patel started gently, letting her dig her own grave. "Did you instruct Frank to confiscate the club?" he asked. Karen sniffed. "I told him to handle a violation. That boy was a danger." The lie was flimsy, and Patel pounced. He played the footage again, her voice undeniable. "You said, 'Deal with this.' Did you mean for Frank to strike a child?" Karen sputtered. "I never. That's not what I meant." But the jury wasn't buying it. Elena, my civil attorney, was there, taking notes for our lawsuit, her pen moving like a scalpel. Under cross-examination, Karen unraveled. Ray joined Patel, their questions a tag-team assault. "Ms. Baxter, did you hire Frank with HOA funds?" Ray asked. "Was his driver purchased with those funds?" Karen's answers were evasive, her composure cracking. Patel introduced financial records, subpoenaed HOA checks to Frank, invoices for her golf cart, a $600 driver billed as community equipment. The judge's frown deepened. Karen's attorney objected, but the damage was done. The courtroom buzzed as Patel hinted at pending charges against her. Conspiracy at minimum. Frank's driver, tagged as evidence, sat on the exhibit table, its polished head catching the light. It was more than a club now, a weapon, a symbol of Karen's reckless power. The prosecution rested, and the defense's case was feeble, leaning on Frank's claim that he meant to scare, not hit. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, the foreman's voice was firm. "Guilty of aggravated assault." Frank's head bowed, his knee still braced from my strike. The judge set sentencing for the following week but didn't hold back. Turning to Karen in the gallery, "Your role in this is troubling, Ms. Baxter. Instigating violence against a child is not a trivial matter." Karen paled, clutching her purse like a lifeline. The fallout was swift. The DA, emboldened by the trial, filed charges against Karen. Conspiracy to commit assault and embezzlement, with more possibly coming. Torres called me that evening. "Her financials are a mess," he said. "Checks to Frank, fake invoices, She's looking at real time. I thanked him, my focus already shifting to the civil case. Elena was ready. Our lawsuit against Karen and the HOA now airtight. The HOA, desperate to avoid a public flogging, voted unanimously to remove Karen, if they hadn't already, and offered a settlement. Medical bills, therapy, a six-figure sum for Alex's pain. I held off, letting Elena negotiate. We've got them cornered, she said, grinning. Karen's personal assets are next. Sentencing day brought the judge's wrath. Frank got 5 years. No parole for 3. The judge citing the egregious use of a deadly weapon against a minor. Karen, still free pending her own charges, sat stone-faced as the judge addressed her again. Your abuse of authority enabled this crime. I expect the DA to act accordingly. The gavel fell and Frank was led away, limping. Outside, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing as Karen ducked into her car. No longer the HOA's golf cart, just a dented sedan. The civil suit moved like lightning. Karen's defense was a house of cards, her lies exposed in the criminal trial. Elena presented our evidence. Alex's medical report, therapy bills, the footage, even neighbor testimonies about Karen's bullying. The judge awarded us a hefty judgment. Damages for Alex's injuries, punitive sums for Karen's malice. Her bank accounts, already under scrutiny for embezzlement, were frozen. The HOA settled separately, coughing up another chunk to avoid a trial. I didn't care about the money. I cared about the message. Bullies don't win. As the dust settled, I sat in my office, the DA's letter and civil judgment filed neatly beside my dossier. Alex was healing, but the scars, his and mine, would linger. Karen's reign was over. Her name now synonymous with scandal. The HOA's new board was scrambling to rebuild trust. But that was their fight. Mine was ensuring no one ever hurt my son again. The courtroom had been our battlefield, and we'd won. Not with fists, but with truth and evidence. Karen had swung first, through Frank. Now she was the one broken. Karen Baxter wanted to control every blade of grass in Willow Creek. Now the only thing she controls is the TV remote in her much smaller, court-ordered apartment. The backyard was quiet again. The late afternoon sun painting the grass gold. Alex stood by his practice net, a new set of junior golf clubs gleaming beside him. A gift from the settlement money. His arm, free of its cast, bore a faint scar. A reminder, but not a shackle. He lined up a shot, his swing smoother now, and the plastic ball sailed into the net with a soft thwack. I watched from the patio, my iced tea sweating on the table. The security cameras still humming quietly above. Nice form, bud, I called. He grinned, all braces and confidence. A spark in his eyes that hadn't been there before the ordeal. Alex was healing, not just physically. The therapy helped, but so did seeing justice done. He'd faced a bully, watched his father dismantle a corrupt system, and come out stronger. We'd had tough talks about fear, about standing up, about the line between right and wrong. You didn't let her win, he said one night, and that was enough. I'd taken a more active role in the HOA, not as a leader, but as a watchdog, ensuring the new board stayed honest. No more Karens, no more Franks. The community was rebuilding piece by piece. The new HOA leadership, led by a pragmatic retiree named Susan, was a breath of fresh air. They'd rewritten the bylaws, prioritizing transparency. Every expense now public, every decision voted on. The financial audit, sparked by my dossier, had exposed Karen's schemes. Thousands siphoned for her golf cart, Frank's security gig. Even that driver he'd swung at Alex. The board recovered what they could, seizing Karen's forfeited HOA assets to fund long overdue improvements. The best was a small practice green in the common area, dedicated to Alex. Kids gathered there now, swinging clubs under a sign that read Alex's Green. When I saw it unveiled, I felt a lump in my throat. Alex just smirked and said, "Guess I'm famous." Frank was a ghost now, serving his sentence in a state facility. His days as an enforcer were over. No one would hire a convicted felon with a shattered knee and a rap sheet. I didn't waste energy on him. He'd been a tool, wielded by Karen's ego. She was the real architect, and her fall was the sweeter victory. Months after the trial, I spotted her in a grocery store outside Willow Creek. No pearls, no golf attire. Just a faded sweater and a hunched posture. Her eyes darting away when she saw me. The power she'd clung to is gone. Stripped by court orders and public shame, her house, sold to cover legal fees, was now home to a young family. Rumor had it she was in a one-bedroom apartment. Her HOA presidency a bitter memory. The irony was sharp. Some of her seized funds had paved the practice green she'd have vetoed. The community's transformation felt like an exhale. Neighbors, once cowed by Karen's reign, were vocal now, showing up to meetings, questioning budgets. Susan's board installed a community suggestion box, and ideas poured in: better lighting, a playground, even a scholarship fund for kids like Alex. The HOA wasn't perfect, but it was accountable, and that was enough. The cameras on my house stayed up, a quiet reminder of what happens when power goes unchecked. One evening, as Alex practiced, I leaned back in my chair, watching him nail a perfect shot. "You know, son," I said, "some people think a golf club is for hitting a ball. Others, like Frank and Karen, see it as a tool for intimidation. They learned the hard way that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, especially when you mess with my kid on my property." Alex laughed, twirling his club. "And when you've got cameras and a lawyer," he added. I chuckled. That too. The fight had changed us, but it hadn't broken us. Alex's confidence, his ease with a club again, was proof of that. The settlement money was in a trust for him, college, maybe a car. But the real win was the peace we'd reclaimed. Karen's shadow no longer loomed over Willow Creek. Her name was a cautionary tale, whispered at board meetings and barbecues. The community had learned, just as she had, that bullies only thrive until someone fights back. If you believe that bullies who hide behind HOA power and their goons deserve to face serious consequences, smash that like button. Share the story of a father protecting his son and dismantling a corrupt HOA. Subscribe for more tales of entitled Karens getting exactly what they deserve. And make sure to ring that bell. What's the most outrageous abuse of power you've ever seen from an HOA or its enforcers? Let it rip in the comments below.